about the sense of self movement.
Great, great. So self-movement, what is that? Well, another way that it is described is the sense of proprioception. And what is that? So, self movement, proprioception, this is the experience, the sense experience of the self, the body, the self, the emotions, as the body moves through other bodies, through space that is filled with otherness. And so it is that interior sense of self in relationship to the world. Yeah, yeah. Self movement, I think that a real foundation of self movement, or a way that we can help the child to have this very deeply founded sense of self movement, is when they're small, and when we're carrying them, and also when we're carrying carrying them in utero and carrying them in the arms, um, to just be aware that rhythmic movement is calming. And so we see mamas, everywhere. They've got the baby, and there's the mama in the back of the room, who's moving like this. Or we're in the rocking chair and we've got the baby, and we're rocking. And I'll just say one wonderful miracle about rocking. So we've got the baby like this, and we're rocking the baby like this. And when um, there is movement that is um, horizontal, the baby is horizontal. When there's movement that's horizontal and it's rhythmic, that creates a sense of calm and a sense of well-being, a sense of harmony. So here's the baby being rocked with all of this sense of harmony. Now, the other thing is we're rocking. So we're in the rocking chair and we're rocking like this. And when we're rocking forward and the movement is more vertical, that creates a sense of attention and focus, and um, it calls all of our aspects of self into a sense of focus and attention. So this very natural thing that we do with our child, this movement that we do with our child, it gives them tranquility and harmony, and it gives us focus and attention, so that we're focusing on them, that we're holding them in our heart space. So that's just a little nugget. When you've got the baby in your arms, or you've got the 4-year-old in your arms and you are rocking them, that it's like it's built into our physiology to comfort our children in this way, with our focused attention in this way. Um,
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I love that some of these things that we're talking about are, we're wired to do these things. Like nobody ever told me that when I stand up with my baby, I should rock back and forth. It's like we just know to do it.
yes,
They,
it's
they just need us to move and then they'll calm down. But I think that reminder about rhythmic movement being calming is really interesting and I think helpful.
yes, yes, and it's a slow rhythmic
Yeah.
movement. There are other kinds of rhythmic movement that will jazz us up, but this is a slow rhythmic movement. And so this, as we hold the baby, as we rock the baby, as we carry the baby and the baby carrier, all of this is that rhythmic movement that sort of sets the stage for their own exploration of movement. Yes. And in a minute, we'll talk about the term of self movement. What is it that self movement really involves? but for now, we'll just look at sort of this movement. So we set the stage by our the way we hold the child, and these calm and rhythmic kinds of movements, so that then when the child is on, we put them on the little blanket on the floor or in the crib. Then as they begin to move themselves, they will imitate these kind of calm and rhythmic movements. And if they're excited, there certainly is plenty of that that goes on. And this very foundational awareness of the body in space is absolutely crucial. It's crucial for it's crucial for many different kinds of development, and we can think of um, large motor activities and also small motor activities. When a child is not well founded in their body in relationship to other bodies in space, we have the child who may they're excited and they run toward their friend and they crash into them, or they come to sit down at the table and sit down in the chair, and the chair moves in the table. They're not aware of the impact. They're not aware of the impact of their body in relationship to other bodies. And it's also true in terms of small motor activities. When the child then is older and is putting crayon to paper, or as they begin to put pencil to paper and begin to write, again, there needs to be this steadiness of knowing where the hand lives in relationship to paper, or where the eye belongs in relationship to the book. This is founded. This is begins in this rhythmic movement that we model for the child. Um, and this sense of self in space is also the ground of the child's social interactions. It's so interesting, because if the child isn't aware of themselves in space, then they don't recognize. You might have the child who is too impactful when they are meeting or interacting with other children, or you might have the child who is too shy, who's too cautious. They're uncertain. Uncertainty in some children causes kind of like overreaching the mark, and uncertainty in other children causes a kind of reticence. And because touch and because bodies are so crucial in children's interactions, in our interactions too, but certainly in little children's interactions, um, these kind of overreaching or underreaching, they impact the child's social development. The child will not understand why all I did was go and give them a hug and now they're crying and on the ground, and won't understand, well, now that child doesn't want to play with me. Um, so, so again, when they're very small, if we can model for them this rhythmic kind of movement, and we learn this rhythmic movement, we give ourselves the gift of this rhythmic movement off and on throughout the day by attuning to the rhythmic movement of our breath. This is a foundational movement of ours, and we can nurture that in ourselves and thereby nurture this in our children. And the way that we can really support this sense of self movement for the children is to, how to say this, to be aware that there is an inborn, a natural movement progression that the child it's built into their body, and they need to move in this in their own what do I want to say, this kind of archetypal way. And maybe I can say this best by by saying what we don't want to do. So what we don't want to do is, if you look online, there are pages and pages and pages full of body positioners for babies, body positioners. And so it sits the baby up when the baby's not ready to be sat up. It's the walkers that walk the baby when they're not ready to walk. There are lots of new kinds that I'm not aware of. But what we need to do is allow this movement progression to just unfold like a flower. A flower knows how to unfold, it knows how to do it in relationship to the world. And the baby knows how to do this in relationship. Their own body in relationship to the world. They can do this. And so we begin by putting the baby on their back. I know that the doctor will say you must give the baby tummy time. And I think that it's too long. The doctors are right in some circumstances, but not our circumstances, not if we are holding the baby in arms. If the baby is laid down and left, for long periods, that they're worried about the shape of the back of the head, and so they say it has to be tummy time. But if we are holding our baby and putting them down on their back and so forth, we don't have to worry about that. So we start with the baby on the back, and then the baby can move. They have full range of movement of the head, the eyes learn to focus. They have a whole range of movements. They can explore all the way through arms and legs. First, it begins with arms and legs and the eyes turning, and then the torso follows. So eventually, they will have their own tummy time. Eventually, they'll manage to get themselves rolled over and to have tummy time. If we give a baby tummy time before they have developed the core muscles, the way they develop the core muscles is by all of that striving. They see a toy over there, they reach for it, they roll, 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 roll. They don't make it, they roll back. They try again, And it's not helpful for us to move the toy closer. It needs to be just, a little bit outside of their reach so they have something to strive for. So we want that kind of, that their movement is informed by their interest, that they have interest in the world. And so they eventually will then have tummy time. Then they have the core muscles. They can push themselves up. Without those core muscles, the child they're kind of like, they're just stuck there.
Right.
This is why babies hate tummy time. It's because they don't have the core muscles and they don't have all the strength that it takes. Now the baby can push themselves up and then look around, and then the rocking that happens, the rocking back and forth and back and forth, and then sitting back. This is an absolutely natural movement progression. Eventually they sit back on their heels. Eventually they learn how to sit down on their bottoms. Sitting on the bottoms then becomes crawling. Crawling then becomes gliding or coasting along furniture, holding onto furniture. All of this is an absolutely natural progression, and they need to do it themselves, and it needs to be guided by their own interests. This is why we call it self-movement or self-initiated movement. And when the child is having a difficult time and they want that toy and they can't get it, rather than putting the toy in their hand, we say, "Oh, you're working so hard. Look at you. Look at what good muscles. You're going to do it pretty soon." We're their cheerleaders,
Yes.
not their enablers. We're the cheerleaders. So this is really what I can say is to really allow the child to have this self-initiated movement progression, and that lays a foundation. The child not only learns about movement and learns to stand, they learn, I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it, and I know how to do it. and that is that's so crucial. Like that's what we all want for our children, is we want them to walk into the world feeling like, I can do this and I'm well equipped. And it begins right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It begins by us not enabling them. It begins by us saying, you are so big, look at you go.
So, Sharifa, then I have to ask you the question. So then are you a grandmother then that doesn't hold the baby's arms before they walk and walks them across the room? Do you do that?
I never do that.
Oh, are you sure? I can't believe it. Don't all grandmothers do that?
No, no. As a matter of fact, I'm the one who says to my children, do it herself. No, 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 no. Yeah, and they know that I've done all of this study, so
I know,
they're
I'm teasing
yeah,
you.
but it's so tempting for the parent
I
to
know it's
do
so tempting.
exactly that. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, and let's see. One thing about movement and how it transforms to a higher sense, it relates to the sense of speech. Rudolf Steiner's sense of speech and the power of the word, and the sense of movement is like it scaffolds for that sense of speech, because the way the child moves in the world, the movements speak into the world. Movement actually scaffolds for hearing, and movement scaffolds for language. So movement speaks in the world, and this then becomes the child's sense of the power of speech, and it begins with movement.
Fascinating.
Great.
Well, thank you, Sharifa.
This was fun.
Okay, we'll see you in a minute.